Hello, this is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from Cape Agulhas, Simonstown, most beautiful place in the world. I like to call it Penguin Land. I've come to talk to you today about ESP. This is an introduction. I will be dealing with this matter in more depth in later episodes, but I've had a number of people asking me about the development of ESP, and I thought to give a couple of the basic, very basic, more safe starting blocks, shall we say. So, ESP, extrasensory perception, and the powers that go with this. We're essentially talking about the psychic powers. It does relate to Visuddhi chakra, specifically, although it relates through all the other chakras. To think of the chakras or the energy centers as separate is not really accurate. They are interrelated, and within each of the spheres or the chakras, there are all of the others operating as seeds. You've got to imagine a yang yin and see how the seed of the yang is in the yin and the seed of the yin is in the yang. A little white dot, little black dot, respectively. In the half circle, that's a whirl. And the chakras are a little bit like this. So there are 6 that'll be unmanifest and 1 obviously manifest, though the other elements will be there. It's important to realize this. All 7 principles are operating as a unity, but in certain spheres they get dominance of expression. So we're talking especially about Visuddhi. So sound is one of the big activators. The safer way to do it is with mantra yoga, using chants. And the purification of the mind is fundamental. So chanting Om is going to have really profound effects on the pineal and the pituitary gland alike, and prepare them so that they are able to accept the information that's coming through the vibrational field. There are many different ways in which this information can be coded or released into the sphere of consciousness. So concentration is the key. Dhyana, meditation, is the ability to focus and concentrate. And the focus and the concentration develops patience. Patience is a big part of the story because it's how we empower the will and how we bring the will into action. Because patience releases the inhibitions that restrict the will. And so the practice of dhyana is a certain austerity because it's quite difficult when you're doing it right and when you're doing it intently. And when you're doing it intently, you want to do as much of it as you can. Sort of like if you go to gym, you're not just going to do 2 or 3 reps. You're going to find a weight that's comfortable for your body, and you're going to do a reasonable number of reps so that you can feel the muscular stimulation and a certain amount of challenge. So in this respect, meditation is going to be fundamental. The breath obviously brings you back to the sphere of the heart and helps regulate the consciousness in the mind. Obviously fundamental to the development of the ESP itself, because one needs to be able to find a level of peace in the mind. One of the things that I use a lot of, you can see the smoke wafting around here, is frankincense and myrrh. I can't tell you how powerful frankincense and myrrh is. I don't suggest getting incense. I suggest getting the charcoal blocks. They're fairly accessible. They're not that expensive. And getting raw frankincense and raw myrrh. And buying it, it's also not that expensive. It goes quite far. And burning it in the space. And burn it liberally, because you're burning it, it's pure resins. You buy the pure resins. It's called Olabanam, if it comes from India. Boswellia serrata, that's one of the cheaper versions, or Boswellia carteri, or there are many other versions of the Boswellia tree. If you're feeling lucky, you might get hold of the Boswellia saka, and there's some very special versions of the saka, a little bit more expensive, hard to come by. But these are all going to do the job, essentially. The Boswellia serrata does a very good job. The Indian frankincense is wonderful for bringing about a state of peace. And the myrrh, they work together to condition the heart, the lungs, and the mind. So the word incense comes from frankincense, by the way. And frankincense and myrrh work as a synergetic effect. Myrrh also is very protective. And so is frankincense. It also protects you from bad dreams and having bad ESP experiences. Very important for purification. In terms of japa, I would look into developing japa skills. Japa is mantra yoga, and chanting. And chanting Ganesha mantra. Find a Ganesha mantra you feel comfortable with. There are many, many, many versions out there. And Ori, down. Down. That's my Malamute. He's coming to jump all over me now, and I've said that. So, yeah, it's important to keep balance and focus, and these mantras will help to balance the mind and to remove the obstacles, the mental obstacles, and psychological, emotional, physical obstacles of body as well. Habits, tension. Tension in the body is fundamental. So before you start, you want to actually focus on relaxing. Relaxing the body is key. And breathing. Get your breath to a regular, steady, slow breath. I like to start, for beginners, I normally start beginners with the counting. And don't push yourself. Find a rhythm that's comfortable. Get your breath into a steady, regular breathing state so that you can enter into a meditative state. And so you start relaxing the body. Relax the body in zones and concentrate on the tension that you can become aware of, and just be aware of it and allow it patiently. See, patience is a development of the will. To allow itself to dissolve. Because as you become aware of tension, it does dissolve if you're patient. And when you feel relaxed, you start focusing on your breath. And you allow your breath to get steady. You can breathe in 4 beats. Allow it to rest without closing the valves in your throat. And release it for 4 beats. And hold it for 2. This is a safe, very easy way to start. The tempo can be your choice. Or you can increase the numbers. You can work with it 6 and 3. Depends on how comfortable you are with your breath. But you don't want to push it. Start with a slower, easier to fulfill rhythm, and develop it as you go along. Then the mantra yoga, a Ganesha mantra. There are many Ganesha mantras out there. I wouldn't suggest trying to overcomplicate it. A simple Ganesha mantra would be sufficient. And you can probably even find one on YouTube and listen to it and get used to it and follow it. There are many, many simple Ganesha mantras that you can use. If you've got a mala, that's a good idea too. This is a Chandan mala, specifically a Ganesha mantra, but any mala will do. If you've got the boji seed, that's a different kind of a rudraksha. Or the rudraksha, typically known, is great. Or a sphatic or a quartz mala is great. Any gem mala, or a wooden bead mala. Normally they're 108, but your culture might be working with a different number. You might have a half mala, which is 54, that's okay. The key is to get into a rhythm. Get your mind into a state of rhythm. And when your consciousness enters into a state of rhythm, from there on you can do the work. So one of the techniques is to, in your mind, be counting. You can visualize numbers. You can visualize the 7, which is red, and a 6, which is orange, and a 5, which is yellow. And you could count back towards violet. Why are we counting back towards violet? Violet symbolizes the moon, and it's the sphere of sublimation. And in the sphere of sublimation, one can get all sorts of experiences of the subconscious. And this is where the sphere of the psychic ESP reality is going to be discovered first. So one will get impressions, visions, and such. It's a slow practice. Don't expect results. If you're looking for results, that will in itself prevent results. One needs to take the practice and just do it. And just do it regularly, every day. And you'll notice that when the astrology moves, when the planets move, when the Shastras align, you will get better results. And sometimes the results won't be as impressive. Sometimes there won't be any results. In the beginning, there probably won't be for a while. And the moment you stop desiring results, and you just do the practice for the sake of the practice, that's when the results will start. And when you become aware of the results and you want more of them, they will stop. So this is a little bit of a psychological battle that you will have to endure, go through, and find peace within yourself. Another thing to consider is color. To work with color, to paint. Painting, great. To work with color is to stimulate the color imagination. And obviously this is going to stimulate the imagination. And the imagination is the key to finding a solid base of foundation through which to work. And the ability of the mind to build images is also key to utilizing the psychic instrument, especially in later development. There are visualizations that you can follow. A great visualization is to allow yourself to imagine yourself in a garden that you feel comfortable in. And start to imagine the garden around you. And go back to the space regularly. It would be a lovely garden with flowers, beautiful, secure, safe, enclosed, but with lots of light. Beautiful butterflies and insects, and let your imagination go wild. This is a great way to build the imagination, to develop the imaginative, the sphere of the moon. It will help also to protect the psyche from unwanted influences. And remember the frankincense and the myrrh, key. I would burn it before you start. During your relaxation and your breathing, that's the time you're burning your frankincense as well. So you've got some time in the room with frankincense, because you inhale it over a period of time. It's totally safe. It's non-toxic if it's pure. And it will help to deepen your state of consciousness so that you can more easily access the sphere of the moon, allow the imagination to become unbridled. Also, another consideration, which is possibly of use, is the focus of proprioception. When you find the relaxation in your body, to focus the awareness in the center of the head will help to purify the mind and to create a root for the body. And then to allow it to descend and be aware of the space, where you could visualize an egg. It could be a dark color egg, indigo egg, black egg. And then to descend to the heart, where you would imagine a sphere. It could be a blue sphere or a green sphere. There are different options. The reason we would use blue or green in the heart is because it helps to relax the heart sphere. Yellow would be a stimulating color on the heart, and this would activate the intellectual faculties and the ability to control the psychic instrument more. But to begin with, you want access. So the blue color is a great color because it aligns the heart with the mental plane. And yes, there are different colors you can use in the heart sphere. Traditionally, there are a whole lot of them. All the way from ruby to yellow gold to green, blue, pink. Pink is a lovely color to warm the heart and to bring it into the physical sphere. Though I would suggest working with green to begin, because it's a natural color, it's a vibrant color, and then move towards blue in the heart. And when the awareness is rooted here, after finding a stimulation in the heart and a balance, one can allow one's awareness to become focused here. And this will create a line of concentration, a field of concentration, shall we say. And this is obviously the key to allowing yourself to experience subconscious forces that you're not normally aware of. Some advice: don't be taken by beings that you think might help you. If you meet beings along the way, say thank you for coming and great having you, please leave. Realize that the only way beings are actually able to interact with you is if you start to invite them in and start to bring them into the sphere, because there are rules governing these things. And when people develop issues, it's because they become fascinated and they think this being can teach them something, and they start getting entrained with the being, and then the being starts getting control. So I would advise avoiding extra dimensional consciousness beings and just focusing on the internal world of color and focusing on the sound, chanting. And a great mantra for developing the balanced powers of all the chakras is the Om Namah Shivaya. It's a very simple mantra, very powerful mantra. It entrains each of the chakras in turn so that the will can be aligned within each of the chakras. It's a great mantra to practice, but remember, precede it with Ganesha mantra. Sound is going to activate the Visuddhi chakra, which is going to actually stimulate and release the ESP potentials. So sound is very fundamentally important to the whole process, to the work itself. I don't want to give you too much here. There are tattva exercises one can do, but this is particularly powerful. I wouldn't get too far into that. What I would consider is having a red sphere with a green dot in the center of it. You can draw this and color it in. And the green dot expanded to a cross, so that you've got a green cross on a red sphere. And you can look at this for no more than a minute. Do it like 20 seconds. Close your eyes, and you'll see that color inside your mind. Wait a while. 20 seconds again, you'll see that color inside your mind. The color will present itself as a complementary color. And after practicing for a week, extend it to 25 seconds, 3 sets. And after practicing for a few weeks, extend it to 30. Within a month, you should be able to take it to 45 seconds. But not more than that, I wouldn't suggest. That will give you 2.5 minutes or less. And that's about 150 seconds, which is a great stimulation. This will stimulate the Ajna chakra and the solar plexus. And will also bring into play the forces of causality, which will help to stabilize the powers of the moon and become a focal point of concentration. But don't overdo it, because overdoing it will create problems. You might notice certain flashing effects, which is great, because these complementary colors, when they are placed together in a glyph, do produce what is known as the flashing effect of colors. Do not get excited with this. This can be dangerous. You can overstimulate your chakras to the point where you start to see lots of energy vibrating around, but that can also be harmful. And unless you're ready for the experience, it's not productive. I would suggest taking your time. Instead of desiring a quick result within a month, take the slow route and say, I'm not looking for the results for at least 6 months or a year. And take it slowly, because then what comes will be stable, balanced, and it won't fade. If you overstimulate your chakras, you will be drawn away from the practice. And the ESP will actually, you'll lose the little bit that you gain, and you'll be starting the practice again and be like the tides of the ocean, taking it away, bringing it back. Less is really more when it comes to developing ESP, and I can tell you that from total experience. So these are basic hints that you can practice. Another thing I would do is, before you start your practice, massage the points of your hands carefully and stimulate all the points, and the points at the bottom of your feet, and also your fingers, and all the joints. This will help to allow the energy to free flow in the body. Both hands, both feet, 2 minutes each hand. And then you do your relaxation, and then you do your breathing, and then you do your chanting. And the whole episode should be, about 25 minutes? Don't overdo the meditative side of it to begin with. Keep it to 5 minutes. Unless you've got a lot of experience in meditation, then you can take it to a further level. But we're talking especially to beginners here, because this is what we're looking at. And by and by, you will naturally start to lengthen the period. You will start to enjoy the experience of meditation. And when you bring the sphere to the heart, you'll become very aware of the breath. You become aware of the prana, and the forces of energy moving in and out through your body. And that'll be a very pleasant experience. Overstimulation of the head chakras can create pressure in the head, migraines and headaches, so be careful. That's what I'm saying. Don't think you're clever and overstimulate your head and then be stuck with migraines and not being able to sleep and messing up your sleeping patterns, feeling really awful afterwards. That's not productive. That's not what development of ESP is about. I think this is pretty much what you need. Another thing I would suggest is have a shower before you do this. It's great to shower first. Clean your body, clean your mind. You know that freshness that you feel after a shower, that's fundamental. It's really important. And if you really want to get the most out of it, the best time to practice is when the sun is dawning to rising, if you can, or when the sun is setting to dusk.